The fourth floor of the Student Activity Center on East Campus Mall doesn't just house space for various student organizations and places to study. It's also home to the Associated Students of Madison, or ASM. ASM is the student government of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It is also responsible for direct communication between students and the UW administration. ASM is split into three primary branches. The central branch of ASM is Student Council, which acts as the official voice of students.
Student Council is really a spot where students can come and voice their concerns about campus. So whether it's concerns about campus safety or lack of avenues to be aware about mental health, increasing awareness in general. So Student Council also obviously has a role of representing students, which is difficult on a campus when there's 10 to 12% voter turnout, but it's also to be expected at a campus this large. Student Council really is the heart. It's not the heart and soul of ASM, but it's where everything comes as they go through in order to get done. Primarily my role is to be a facilitator of the rest of the organization and to just be the spokesperson of the organization in general. So my main tangible tasks every week are to run the student council meeting where resolutions are introduced, bylaw changes are made, appointments from nominations board, we approve budgets, the internal budget, SFC budgets. It's basically to be a facilitator as well of campaigns. So people come to me with ideas, they come with me for connections. I can put them in contact with someone who may know how to work on a campaign. So someone comes to me with an issue, I can be like, hey, contact this dean, or I'll email on your behalf and send that forward and set that meeting and we can move forward together.
Branching off of Student Council are small complementary committees that focus on specific issues central to student life on campus.
There's definitely a hierarchy in ASM, and Student Council goes down like that into the grassroots committees and everything, but they still are able to work on their own projects. They have their own committee chairs who have a lot of discretion on the projects and campaigns they take up. So Student Council is definitely not in control of it, but they are kind of they're not even an oversight body really. They're just there as like a check, I guess, to make sure the whole organization is held together.
The second major branch of ASM is the Student Services Finance Committee, which handles revenue from student-segregated fees that every UW-Madison student must pay.
We decide the level of segregated fees for the upcoming year. Usually it gets described as we allocate fees, but technically what we're doing is deciding for a year ahead, so we actually define the level of segregated fees that are charged to students for the upcoming year. So we make budgetary decisions on different units on campus.
SSFC is also in charge of managing the budgets of organizations in the General Student Services Fund.
So the General Student Services Fund is a mechanism for funding the student organizations that provide what's called a direct service to campus. So a direct service is something that is educational but not credit producing. It's accessible to all students, it's requestable by all students, and is tailorable to a student's needs and available throughout the fiscal year. So groups that are funded through the GSSF are required to provide something that any student at any time can come and say, I need this service in this kind of way to fit my needs, and they need to be able to provide that. So we have 15 student organizations currently providing those services for students and student orgs on campus, and they get more expansive budgets. They usually have several staff members that are paid on salary, and then we fund any things that they need to put on the direct services as well as events for their organization too.
The third major branch of ASM is Student Judiciary, which handles disputes and interprets the bylaws or rules of conduct of ASM.
So the Student Judiciary basically acts as a recourse for students that are unsatisfied with the result of a decision made by Finance Committee, SecGB, SFC. So if any group feels that they weren't given due process rights, that the criteria was interpreted in such a way that they were negatively affected, basically we just act as an appellate body to make sure the processes of all these different committees were followed correctly. So I think Student Judiciary has a very important role in just being enacting the balance, basically the fiscal responsibility element, being conscientious stewards of segregated fees, and then also making sure that services are available to students through GSSF, grants to groups, to Finance Committee, dispersions of funds for event and travel. So basically making sure that the criteria is, while rigorous, is also very accessible to students, and they basically have a mechanism to appeal a result if they're not satisfied with it.